So Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 112 is out, and this was another really good chapter. It went by in a flash, but all I gotta say is, with what happened with this chapter, I am hyped for what's gonna happen next, because something happened that I wasn't really expecting to happen, but at the end of the day, it felt like a somewhat natural progression that it would have happened eventually, and I just can't believe I haven't thought of it before. And I'm just really excited, but also kind of terrified of what's going to happen with the implications of what we learn in this singular chapter. But before we get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make on this channel. I am very close to 5,000 subscribers, so let's see if we can get to that by the end of the month. I am very excited for this. My goal is to reach at least 10k subs by the end of the year. Let's get there. Now, let's get right into the chapter. So chapter 112 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Wavering Hearts. We start things off with the Six Knights of Black watching on as the Iron Rain is falling down, as they're talking about how the Behemoth's rampage is starting and that it's going mad, with all of its negative magic oozing closer and closer to the Demon King's castle, and even the Giant Tiger guy is talking about how his daughter's been crying for days. Honestly, that one piece of dialogue shows a bit more characterization for these characters than we initially got, showing that they do have loved ones, and that's something that a lot of arcs, when they introduce groups of characters, they tend to kind of gloss over. So even though it's kind of a minor thing with just one singular point of dialogue, I just wanted to mention that because it kind of gives more of a stake for these characters instead of just being like a group underneath the Demon King. They have loved ones that they want to protect, so just felt like adding that part in. But then Schwartz, their leader, shows up, tells them to listen up, and that in 6 days they're going to guard Percival as he travels the Behemoth's back, and so they need to be very prepared for this task. He also says that the first thing they have to do is clean out the Camelot intruders who wandered in, and that they have to be sure that they've been wiped out. All the knights agree, and they go forth to try and find the Knights of Camelot. Now, this is going to be interesting because there are 7 Knights of Chaos, one of which being Rosebank, and Gawain is still captured and seemingly unconscious. What they're going to do with Gawain, I'm not entirely sure. That is something I'm very curious about because she is from Camelot, but she's also one of the prophesized Four Knights of the Apocalypse alongside Percival. I'm sure if they take her to Zeldris and Percival vouches for her, they will actually let her go. I'm not sure what's going to go up with Rosebank, but there's always the possibility that the Six Knights of Black will fight a stalemate against Moltnich and his men, but that's still very up in the air. Not to mention, they seemingly have a goddess on their side, which I'm still very convinced is Nanashi, so that fight, if we do end up seeing that, will not go very easily. But moving forward, Tristan is sitting in his room staring out the window as the Six Knights of Black fly off to go search for the Camelot Knights. As Chion goes up and tells him good morning, but is like, well, there's no morning or night here. What a strange place. Nice piece of information. I honestly did not know that. Nice piece of information to talk about for the Demon Realm, with there just being a constant state of no night and day. So that's really cool. But Chion looks kind of solemnly as Tristan just apologizes for what happened yesterday. You know, how he got effortlessly taken out by Schwartz. I find that hilarious, but also kind of sad because Tristan has, outside of the fight with Meligaland, kind of gotten no real time to shine of his own. In the fight against Io, he wasn't even really fighting all out. He was just letting her beat him up so he can get information out of her until he eventually got her on his side. So this was his first real beatdown since Arthur and since Meligaland, before he got his ass beat hard enough where his demon side just went full on and just obliterated him. So I kind of feel bad for Tristan. He hasn't really had a full-on moment where he absolutely succeeded against a powerful enemy. So this is definitely damaging to his pride and his own ego, especially with how the Schwartz kind of dissed his own dad. And Tristan does feel disappointed himself, and he's also worried that he disappointed Chion and Isolde. But Chion states that he told Isolde nothing about what happened between Tristan and Schwartz yesterday, that Chion himself has never been disappointed in Tristan for a single moment. But things are definitely very hectic outside, as we get to see a few overshaping shots of little demon villages, as we see a child being affected by the negative magic power oozing from the Behemoth, saying that they are in constant pain, and apparently the behemoth is sapping this child's life force. She wonders if she's going to die and that she's very scared. The father is saying that this happened before around 16 years ago and that many demons died with having their life force drained from them, and just goes on to say that that's the hand that they were dealt. Until they hear demons flying in the sky telling the people not to give up and that the demon world will be saved. Don't ever give up hope, stating that Percival has returned to their world once more and is going to the behemoth in 6 days and that he'll save all of them. As all the demons, since Percival as a child literally saved them from dying and put the behemoth to sleep, are actually in disbelief that their savior has arrived and that it's a miracle. And good transition, because we then launched straight back to Percival training with Lancelot, with Percival swinging his sword willy-nilly as Lancelot effortlessly punches and kicks Percival backwards. He goes on to tell Percival that he can't hit anything just blindly swinging his sword everywhere. Percival is saying that that's because Lancelot is just too good, but Lancelot just goes on and says it flat. He doesn't doubt Percival's latent strength, agility, and even stamina, but he needs to simply learn how to use his gifts. Because let's be honest, Percival, aside from like enhancing a sword basically and just healing people and flying, he still doesn't fully know how to use his powers, and that's really great because his powers are so unpredictable. Especially what we learned with the previous chapters with his free will golems. And I honestly really need to make a video on Percival again at some point this year, before the year ends. But I feel like this arc is already giving us a decent amount of information about his abilities, and we're still yet to learn more. Percival asks Lance what he has to do in order to learn, but Lance just continues to beat the crap out of Percival, saying not to think, but just to sense it. Basically, kind of do what Lancelot does. Now look, Lancelot, he's definitely a good teacher, but he does kind of have a bias since he is more sensitive to being able to sense things. He's more able to sense things, plus he can read people's minds, so these things tend to come a bit more naturally to him. And he also had a lot more years of experience outside of Percival, so it's going to take longer for Percival to learn about this. And as Lancelot is beating the crap out of Percival, he's literally egging Percival on, being like, come on Percy, is this what you want? Stumped at level 2 Macduff for 6 days straight, as Donnie looks over saying that Percival's got it rough, but he's got to focus on his stuff too. As he tries to move the giant tower in the distance, but then collapses on the floor, saying, I can't get this done. As Naziens and On are jogging, doing their training, as Naziens notices that seemingly the whole demon world is very on edge. But On then asks Naziens a question about what he was going to tell Isolde yesterday, as Naziens just says that Jade was in love with her, and that he's sure that's what he wanted to say to her, as On is like, well, I knew it. As Naziens basically scolds her and saying, why did you stop me? But On explodes at him, stating, you need to think about Isolde's feelings a little bit. If she learns that Jade died protecting her because he loved her that much, it'd be nothing but pain for her. Which is something that I actually brought up previously as well, as we learned more about On's powers and when they talked to Isolde in the previous chapter. But then Naziens also brings up a good point as well, being like, what about what Jade thought about it? Just because he died, does that mean his feelings have to die too? As he goes on to say, if that he won't accept it, and that if something happened to me, he would want On to tell Percival, his feelings. As On just flicks him on the head, stating that you shouldn't say that, it's bad luck, and you got to tell him those feelings yourself. Now, before I move on to honestly the most big thing that happens in this chapter right now, I just need to say, Naziens also brings up a good point. Just because someone died doesn't mean that their feelings and their thoughts don't have to be told to the person that they wanted to tell them to. So it's kind of a delicate balance where it's too soon to say something, but at the same time, you, by not wanting to make that person that survived and witnessed this tragedy experience more pain by learning the truth about why this person died for them and their true feelings, you also have to take into account the feelings of the person that died protecting the person that they loved. Basically, the fact that just because they died, that doesn't mean we can't tell them about the feelings that they had for this person. So on one hand, you don't want the character to feel incredibly guilty and have immense pain for everything that they just learned, but at the same time, you do not want to let those feelings go to waste, and that it is every right to say all the feelings that were left by the person that passed away. There isn't really a correct answer in some regards, because sometimes there are things that just need to be unsaid. But in this situation, I do feel like Isolde is definitely going to have to learn about this, and this could lead to her getting stronger for Jade's sake as well. And I do think that they should tell her. But at the same time, you're not sure how she's going to take it, because she's already very distraught with what happened. So it's all about timing at the end of the day. When is the right time to say these pieces of information to someone who's already grieving and just wants answers? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below on what you think about the situation. Should they tell them now? Should they tell her later? Or do you think that it just not a clear right answer? But moving on to the chapter, Naziens then senses something as they look over towards Percival, as his magical power is beginning to swell. This asks if Percival's giving up, but Percival is just saying that he doesn't know what's going on. His whole body's filling up, and it's going nuts, as light keeps pouring in as Percival's whole powers continue to grow, stating that this is nothing that he's ever felt before, and all this hope that's the driving force is being driven right into him, gathering inside. As we see mini Percival swelling up, as we see Percival getting engulfed by the light, as we see a whole page showcasing all of the demons in the demon realm cheering for their savior Percival. All of their hope is gathering into Percival, and I think this is like a decent small sneak peek as to the full potential of how strong Percival can get and how much powerful he can become with the hope of so many people. He's basically got an entire realm, an entire clan, all looking towards him for hope, and he's getting powered up by all these different people, even more than back in Leonis, than his friends. This is a whole other ballpark of just hope swelling within him. As then the light shines into the air, as then dissipates, with everyone wondering and shocked at what they see, Percival included, as a new Percival just showed up, transparent, made seemingly out of all the magical hope energy that he just got absorbed, as it's literally another him. Percival just unlocked the Shadow Clone Jutsu, which is honestly really cool, and I can't believe I did not think of the fact that he could use multiple golems at once to make a copy of himself. But everyone's shocked at this new turn of events, and the clone Percival just moves around, getting used to its own body, as it goes to Lance and asks if he doesn't mind taking Percival's place in this one instance of the fight. As Percival's like, wait, you want to fight him? And Lancelot's like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's test this out a bit. The clone Percival then grabs the sword that Percival is using and gets ready to fight Lance. He then lunges at Lance instantly, with Lance trying to pierce the clone, but it dissipates, appearing right behind Lancelot, saying hit, as he does land a blow on Lancelot from the back, knocking him across the ground. As this shocks Percival, as the mini Percival is just saying, hey, don't act so surprised, bro. You're far stronger and more precious than I am. Which goes to show that, yes, the power does have a mind of its own, but it also acknowledges that Percival is the source. So that's something that's very interesting. But Percival asks, but what are you? As the end of the chapter gives us the Percival clone talking in that strange language that Percival spoke when he was in his despair state, when he thought his whole group of friends died when they first encountered the Tristan platoon back at the start of the Leonis arc. As the words state, Zarura Nundu. If anyone gets an idea of what this could be a reference to, let me know in the comments. As Mini Percival just smiles at Percival, stating, a piece of our great one. Ending the chapter. Oh boy, this is something. This is a lot right now. First of all, I like that we're getting a piece of basic lore in this section, because this is giving us a tease of what Percival's power is originating from. A lot of people have speculated that maybe Percival's power comes from chaos itself, that it's a piece of chaos, and basically being like a part of our great one might imply to chaos itself, or some other greater being. People are speculating that Percival is a reincarnation of the Demon King, but I don't know about that. I don't think that's possible. Or that it might actually happen. But either way, I am really excited, but also terrified, because this version of Percival, a clone of Percival, was able to land a blow on Lancelot very easily. Now, granted, it doesn't have a full physical body for Lancelot to hit, but the matter of fact is that it was able to hit Lancelot very quickly, and it was far superior to Macduff in terms of strength, while the core Percival was still at his base level of strength with no real swordsmanship skills at all. And hell, this Percival clone was able to use a sword relatively well in comparison to Percival himself. But he also goes on to say that Percival is very precious, more precious than the clone itself. So there's definitely more going on with Percival than we think of, so I'm still very confused. But at the same time, I need to go back and reread Four Knights from the beginning for any hints of what this could be. And I feel like this arc, we're definitely going to get some more lore and ideas of what's going to happen with Percival. This arc is definitely going to give us some more pieces of information, and this clone is definitely the biggest piece right now. I also like that Tristan is doubting himself from his loss, and he's afraid he's disappointed everyone. And everyone speculated in the previous chapter review in the comments that Tristan has to not only come to terms with himself and build his halves, but has to be just him, a Nephilim, not a goddess, not a demon. He's a new entity entirely, and he has to fully be himself. And hell, he might even awaken a new eye power. He might combine the powers into one, into something new. And that's something I look forward to, because that also goes into Tristan's own monstrous potential. I also like how the Six Knights of Black are going to go off to find the Camelot Knights, and I do feel like they might have an encounter, and that might lead to the main group of characters having to fight these knights, for all we know, as the Six Knights might end up being defeated. I have no clue how that's going to turn out. But either way, this was a big chapter, a lot to talk about. I liked Nazien and An's talk about Isolde and her feelings and Jade's final words. I talked a whole lot about that in that section, but it was just really great. I loved this whole chapter, and it just gets me very, very hyped for what happens next. But yeah, that's the chapter. Those are my thoughts, and what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts, opinions, and theories in the comment section down below. How excited, how terrified of you are of the Percival clone, because let's be honest, these clones, when they were just mini golems, were already concerning enough as it was with free will. But now we got a full-on clone of Percival that is better at fighting than Percival, and speaks this dark language, and also seemingly knows more about Percival than Percival himself, so no idea where this is going to go. But tell me what you guys think, and how hyped you are for the future of this arc. And with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make on the channel. And I cannot wait to keep covering Four Knights every single week. And with all that done, I hope you all have an awesome day.